Hey you guys, it's your girl Tanette Lachey, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing okay this morning. I have a few things I want to talk to you guys about. All this craziness going on in the country today. I just want to touch a little bit on the acts of racism that's going on in the country. I want to give my experience and my accounts because I think a lot of people try to dismiss racism and dismiss people getting profiled or whatever it may be because they haven't seen it with their own two eyes, or they haven't experienced it. Just because you haven't seen it with your own two eyes, or just because you haven't experienced it for yourself, doesn't mean that somebody else hasn't. And it is very hurtful and very dismissive for people to say we need to get over it, or that's just all in our imagination, when you yourself weren't there in the moment. You yourself didn't experience what we experienced. So to say those things, it's kind of out of line, out of pocket. You can't speak on something that you have no idea about, or that you haven't experienced for yourself. So today I'm just going to share some of my experiences, and I'm going to share what I think we need to do as a collective unit to overcome racism. But as a lot of you may know, I'm from North Carolina. I won't say what city, but if you know me, you know what town I grew up in. And it's, for the most part, a pretty racist town. It's some very nice people here, but there are also some very not so nice people here. And when I was growing up, I'm only 28 years old, my family on my mom's side, I grew up in a multiracial, multicultural family. So racism really wasn't brought to my attention growing up. I had white aunts, I had biracial cousins. I never really identified to them as anything but my family. And I think as a child, you're just so, I'm not going to say naive, but you just don't notice things that adults do. You just know you love somebody, you know you care for somebody, you know that's your family, and that's all you know. You don't really recognize your differences. So growing up, I never, noticed that they were a different skin color than me, or, until I started going to school and other people started pointing that out for me and for us. And a lot of people ask, well, how are y'all cousins, and da-da-da-da, how are y'all family? Well, we would explain it, and it just kind of like dumbfounded them that we could be related. And so coming into the school system and just going outside my four walls of my family was a big shock, because like I said, we were always taught to love one another and to love other people, no matter, their race, no matter, anything. I remember my grandma, somebody said something about one of my cousins being mixed, and she hates that word. I hate that word to this day. She was like, what does mixed mean? They're not mixed, they're not a dog. They're multiracial, they're biracial. I don't want to ever hear you call them mixed again. And my mom was the same way. She hates that word. Almost everybody that I know hate that word. And I use biracial. Been using biracial. That was saying mixed was like saying a cuss word. And so growing up in that biracial family and that having that dynamic, I think it kind of made me a little oblivious to things that were going on outside our family. And so, like I said, growing up, going into, high school, going into middle school, I remember my first boyfriend was white. And a lot of people had a lot of things to say about that. And I don't know, it kind of hurt my feelings at first. But then I was just like, I care about who I care about, and, my family didn't care. It wasn't a big deal to me. But once I got to, I think it was like 3 incidents, and I've experienced a lot of racism, like, people following me in the store, accusing me of stealing stuff when I hadn't stolen anything, clutching their purse when they see me, or if we're on the sidewalk, they'll go all the way to the opposite side of the road because they see me coming. But 3 things I really, really remember growing up, and I think I was in the 8th grade. My sister was in high school, might have been her senior year in high school. When I was in the 8th grade, I remember my mama was dropping us off, or dropping her off at school. And we pulled up to the school, to the Rock, and a neighboring county school, a rival school, had vandalized our school Spirit Rock. They had painted white and red, that was their school colors, but they had thrown cotton on the Rock, they had thrown KFC chicken buckets on the Rock, they had spray painted "Pick That Cotton" N-word, they had spray painted the N-word all on our sidewalks. It was just everywhere, N-word, N-word, N-word. And that was like, my mama had to have a conversation with us that morning, because that was like the first time we have ever seen racism like that for ourselves, besides in a history book. And it kind of like took me back for a second, because I was like, why would anybody, do that? It just, over a football game, over it was just crazy to me. And so that was the first encounter that I ever had with, people calling me outside of my name, calling me, or not me, but everybody that was involved with that school, the N-word. And honestly, that school is known for that. Every account that I'm about to tell y'all about, it happened coming from that school and from those people, and nobody ever did anything to them about it. They still got to play sports. That night they still got to play. The other accounts I'm about to tell you about, they still got to play. And honestly, I feel like athletics is a privilege, and if you want to act like a fool, you should lose that privilege, because it's not right. It's really not right, and you allow them to do it. That's why they keep on doing it, and that's why they kept on doing it, is because they never had any repercussions for their actions. But anywho, fast forward to the 10th grade. We're playing at that school, at their home, and the JV boys already had to get escorted out and they had to stop their game, if I'm not mistaken, because some players called them the N-word and a fight broke out, and so they started our game. And so we're up. My coach takes us out. Me and my cousin are sitting on a bench, and it's this lady behind us. She's yelling, she's cussing, N-word this, N-word that, and we're just, keeping our composure. And my coach, even before we started the game, he said, you already know their tactics. You already know what they're going to do. You already know what they're going to say. Do not, I repeat, do not react. And so, which I feel like you shouldn't have to give that speech to anybody, especially a bunch of teenagers. If y'all know that's the environment we had to go into, like I said, you shouldn't be able to play. But anywho, so yeah, the lady's yelling, she's cussing, she's right up on our shoulders. I mean, she's pointing, she's, just doing all kind of things. And so we're ignoring her, and the more we ignore her, the more angry she gets. And So finally, she picks up our water that we had drinking on the sidelines, picks it up and dumps it on our head. And before we could even react, our parents were coming across the court. I mean, the game's still going, and they marching across the court. And a whole big thing exploded, and still, they let us finish the game, and they made an announcement and said, everybody, if you were under 18, you had to be accompanied by an adult to go to concessions and to the restroom. But the thing is, adults were the ones acting like that. And honestly, adult assaulted minors. And if I knew then what I know now, and I think if my parents knew then what they know now, things definitely would have unfolded differently. I know I would have sought out pressing charges because that was assault. But yeah, she had her children there, right there with her, yelling the derogatory words and calling us the N-word, and you know, that was just normal for them. Like it didn't faze them. And I also remember another time, probably my senior year in high school, I was at the Apple Festival that we have here in my hometown every year. And me and my cousins were walking back to the car, eating our funnel cakes, laughing, having a good time. And this guy walks by and bumps me. I mean, you know how you bump somebody with your shoulder and they spin? That's exactly what he did. And he said, "Watch out, you coon N-word bitch." And I was like, what you call me? And I lost it. And we get into an altercation, and it was like a guy with the Navy or the Army or somebody. He was over there with his little table trying to recruit people. And he walked up and he says, "Is there a problem?" I said, "I don't know, you need to ask him." And he was like, "No, officer, it's not a problem," or whatever he was. "No, sir, it's not a problem." And he said, "Well, I believe you need to get on out of here." And so he, got the guy out of there. And after he left, he just said he was sorry. He seen what had happened. And I was so fired up that day. I mean, I was so hurt. I was so angry. I was like, I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have, punched him in the face. Honestly, that's what I wanted to do. And I knew if I did that, I'd go to jail. And, it wouldn't have justified, anything. I would have been in trouble when he wouldn't have been. I don't think you can go to jail for calling somebody N-word. So me punching him in the face, that would have just been on me. So those are some things I've experienced here. And I prayed when I was pregnant with my daughter that things would get better, and that she wouldn't have to go through those things. And I pray that she still does not. But for people to sit there and say, especially from this town, a lot of people from this town I see say, "Well, y'all need to get over it. None of that stuff happens." Excuse me. None of that stuff really happens. If you do right, nobody will bother you. And, just all these different excuses people make to justify bad behavior blows my mind. Because on all those instances, I was minding my business. I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I still was a victim of racism. And just to know that me as a female, I'm a pretty big female. I'm 5'11", 6 foot, give or take. I haven't stepped on the scale in a while, but I'm over 200 pounds. I'm probably 220, 230. So I'm bigger than most men out here. And for somebody to say, couldn't walk up and say they feel threatened by me just from my looks, and it can cause me my life, is a scary thing to walk around with. That's a scary burden to walk around with. And us as African Americans and people of color, brown people, we walk around in that fear every single day. We can't enjoy barbecues. We can't go buy a candy bar and walk back home with a hood on our head. We can't, do any of the things that most of you guys can do without being harassed. We can't go grocery shopping without somebody following us. I've been in stores and people ask me, if I don't have the money, I just need to get out the store. You don't know what I have in my bank account. And who are you to say that to me? I could be looking around and maybe that's something I want to, buy later. But we shouldn't have to explain ourselves when we walk into a store. We shouldn't have to explain why are we doing this or why we're doing that when we haven't broken any laws. And for people to say that doesn't really happen, or if we did this, then this wouldn't happen. It's very disrespectful. It's very hurtful. And if you could just put yourself in our shoes for 1 second, you might begin to understand where we're coming from. And I try to teach my daughter, I do teach my daughter to love everybody and to respect everybody. And I honestly feel like we can be the generation to end racism because it really is taught. And I seen that day at that basketball game when this 50-something-year-old or 40, I don't know, she looked 50. She could have been younger, but I know she was a woman and she had small children. To see her acting that way, I knew that was passed down from her parents. And then to see her children act that way, I knew that was passed down from her to her children. So racism is passed down. Racism is taught. And if we could break that chain of teaching our children things like that, teaching our children hate, we definitely can end racism. Like I said, I tell Leilani every single day, you need to love everybody. You need to treat everybody how you want to be treated. If somebody do something wrong to you, treat them with kindness and treat them with love and give them love because that's all you can do. I will never, ever, ever, and I know back then I was a hothead. And now that I sit back and I see everything going on, I never give a racist the satisfaction to ever say, I told you so about me. You'll never see me tearing up nothing. And I can't speak on people who do go and protest and who, act out in violence. That's not me. But I can't tell people how they should feel because everybody reacts and everybody feels differently when those things happen to you. Sometimes you feel sad, sometimes you feel angry. I know in my mind, a lot of times when those things happen, if I didn't react, because I did cuss, I did yell, I did fuss, I never got physical with anybody, but in my mind, I tore up some stuff. I put my hands on people. In my mind, I was that angry when those acts of racism happened to me. And like I said, everybody reacts differently, and I can't tell anybody how they should or should not react when they've experienced those things, because we all deal with things differently. But I know for me, I'm never ever going to act out in violence. I'm never going to act out of anger. I'm always going to come from a place of love because, like I said, I will never give a racist the satisfaction ever to say, I told you so, that's how they act, that's how they do. I'll never give them the satisfaction. I'm going to smile. I'm getting this big old pretty smile. I'm going to say I love you and I'm praying for you. And that's what I do. I know it's a lot of people I've encountered day to day who really don't like black people. And it's okay with me because guess what? I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? And I'm going to mean it. And I'm going to tell you have a wonderful day. And I'm going to mean it. And I'm just going to treat them with love and respect. And hopefully one day that will rub off on them and they'll slowly start to change their mind because I truly believe in my heart that love always wins. Love always wins. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but love always wins. And I always want to tell my daughter, and tell other people, love people. Just love them. Love them. Kill them with kindness. Hold your head up high. And I know it makes them mad because, like I said, I've encountered some racists, and I walk in the room with my head held high and with all my pride and all my glory, and ain't nothing they could say, ain't no look they can ever give me. that'll make me, dim my light. Because I'm always going to be the light. I'm going to always be the light that I want to see in the world, and I'm always going to carry that with me every single day. And it's going to make you mad. If that's not what you want to see, I promise you I'm going to make you mad, because I'm going to do it every single day. And I'm going to mean it every single day. And I'm teaching my daughter the same thing. And she's going to teach her children the same thing. And those children are going to teach those children. And it's going to keep on going for me and mine. So I pray that everybody else can do the same. Raise your children to love everybody. Raise your children to, treat everybody with respect. Raise your children, just to be the change they want to see in the world. And like I said, I honestly think my generation, and I know I had some racist classmates. It's a few of y'all, and a few racist people that are around my age. But for the most part, I feel like people in between their 20s and mid-30s, we ain't here for it. We're not here for none of that, and we're not going to stand for none of that. And we are, like I said, we are going to be the generation that's going to change the world, and we're going to be the generation that's going to change the storyline when it comes to racism and when it comes to people treating people that way. Because like I said, we're not going to stand for it. And I just pray that you guys, just continue to love each other. Love, even when it's hard to. And that's when it counts the most. When it's so hard to love somebody who they don't love you, that's the love they need. I'm telling you. It's, like I said, it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. And sometimes after I've been so nice, and it's still rude to me, I just, I have to just tell myself it's a process, Tanetta, but continue to do what you're doing, because nobody, like I said, will ever be able to say that Tanetta did this and Tanetta did that. I never give a racist the satisfaction, and I mean it. So y'all don't give these racists the satisfaction to say I told you so. But yeah. And all you people, I want to say before I forget, all the people who are supporting us, whites, all of y'all, all that love, we see y'all, and we appreciate y'all. And we appreciate y'all standing up with us and standing up for us, because it's going to take everybody. It's really going to take everybody. All hands on deck to end racism. But again, I just want to tell you guys that I love y'all, and continue to spread love, continue to be positive, and we're in this together, and we are going to end this racism. Hope y'all have a blessed day.